Generally, they see this as a non-issue. Whereas the older people, the kind of people that were nurtured by those that Mr. Knox referred to, who were stimulated into hatred against gays and lesbians, made this a defining issue. It certainly was a defining issue and has been in politics. For the young people, this is not a defining issue. The last election saw that very clearly. As young people kind of ignored the abortion issue and the gay issue and voted against the Republican Party in greater numbers out of the evangelical community than ever before. It just isn't that important. It is important to a lot of other people. There was a book written called The True Believer. And in this book, there's a line that is worth reading if you read nothing else in the book. And the line is this, quote, "A social movement can exist without a God. Many movements have. Fascism, Marxist socialism. You can have a movement without a God, but you can never have a movement without a devil that has to be destroyed. Every movement needs a devil." As I look at the historical situation that has developed in the socio-order of the United States, I've watched things happen. During the 1940s, Hitler had a devil. He built his movement around a devil. We all know who the devil was, the Jews. They were the cause of all the problems. They are the ones that were destroying everything. If we could just get rid of the Jews, all would be well. That's the devil. He organized a movement by organizing people to destroy the devil. Here in the United States, following World War II, we had a devil. It was the communist. Some of us are old enough to remember when the big problem at the meeting of the American Baptist churches was not gays, but communism. Did we have communists in the National Council of Churches? Did we have communists in the World Council of Churches? Shouldn't we be withdrawing from these bodies because they are nurturing communism? Communism was the big devil, and we were out to destroy the devil. And religious radio shows were always saying the devil is the communist, and they're going to take over this country and destroy the good, wholesome American values. Then the Iron Curtain came down. There are some who say, isn't it a shame? Because we had to come up with a new devil. And the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community has become the new devil. They are the ones that have been targeted by certain elements of the church, suggesting that these are the people that are going to destroy the American family. And so the whole attack against gays and lesbians and transgender people and transgender people, it's all about we've got to save the American family, which I find humorous. The American family is in trouble. We will agree, will we not? It's in trouble. Almost 50% of all marriages performed this year will end in divorce. But please note, people, it's the heterosexuals that are getting divorced. The gays want to get married. And if you can't see the humor in that, you have no sense of humor whatsoever. But this is what's going on. Now let me throw one more thing at you before we go back to the director of this conversation. Let me tell you about a college chaplain. An evangelical school, strongly evangelical. A young woman comes into the office crying her eyes out. She's been outed, and it's all over the school, it's all over the dormitories. She's crying because her father is one of those preachers that every other Sunday talks about the gays and the lesbians and how they're going to destroy this nation, and how the transgender and bisexual people are destroying the values that have made America great. This is one of the devils that he holds up for the congregation all the time. These are the devils that have to be destroyed. And she's crying because she knows that her father's going to find out now, and he's going to reject her. And she loves her father, she loves her mother, she loves her home, she loves her home church. And she's going to be rejected. And she said, I'm going to have to tell him, because I know it's going to get back to him shortly. My chaplain friend said, you don't have to tell him. I'll tell him. He picked up the phone and dialed his father, this Baptist preacher. Said, your daughter's in my office. She's a genuine inspiration on this campus. She leads 2 Bible studies. She's on one of the worship teams that leads worship at our chapel services on Wednesday. In so many ways, she is the epitome of what we call the ideal Christian on this campus. The father immediately took off and said, that's my daughter. And he started bragging on her and how when she's home during the summer, the old people love it because she loves to visit them, and the youth program picks up, and she's just a dynamic presence in that church, and the church goes in high gear when she's home during the summer months. And he went on and on and on. Finally the chaplain said, stop. We're agreed. Your daughter is a magnificent Christian. And in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to find out whether you are worthy to be called her father. Now that's a change in attitude. When we talked about the problem, I mean, what this chaplain saw was not that the girl was the problem, this young woman was the problem, but the father and the church were the problem. And whatever differences may exist on an ideological level, there is no excuse for people rejecting each other, turning their back on each other, and not having fellowship and love in Christ with one another. I love leaving stories like that up in the air, because it gets you to buy my books. The wonderful part of that story is, and this is true in more cases than not, when it becomes your daughter, your son, your brother, your sister, when it becomes somebody who is near to you and dear to you, and somebody whose spirituality is all too obvious, it becomes impossible to reject. Needless to say, the pastor didn't join Knox's group, but he stopped attacking the people who he was attacking. They were no longer the devil. They were his daughter. And it changed everything. I may say that in talking to the evangelical community, and Peggy will pick up on this, there are 2 things you must do. You must be able to parse the scripture that they throw at you, because they will throw scripture at you. And the other thing that you need to do is collect as many wonderful stories as the one I just told you, that will in fact impact them.